Imagine you're a fighter pilot, locked in a life-or-death dogfight, each high-G roll a gamble of tactics and intuition, adrenaline rushing, your mind racing to anticipate your opponent's next move. In this high-stakes environment, the value of information can't be overstated. Situational awareness, it's knowing where you are, where the enemy is, and where he is going to be next. But information alone isn't enough. It's only useful when skillfully processed through a framework that extracts its value and guides action. How much we successfully harness and apply information is what separates the winners from the also-rans, whether in war, business, or personal decision-making. Understanding how to wield this power lies at the heart of one of the most influential decision-making frameworks ever developed, the OODA Loop. Originally conceived in the unforgiving world of aerial combat, the OODA Loop was the brainchild of Colonel John Boyd, a legendary strategist in the United States Air Force. Boyd's interest stemmed from the remarkable performance of F-86 fighter pilots during the Korean War. These pilots consistently outmaneuvered their Soviet-built MiG adversaries, a phenomenon Boyd attributed not just to the superior technology of their aircraft, but to the way these pilots processed information. Their jets offered wider fields of vision and faster maneuverability through hydraulic controls, but it was the pilot's ability to observe, orient, decide, and act with agility and precision that turned these advantages into decisive victories. At its core, the OODA Loop represents a cycle: observation, orientation, decision, and action. On paper, it might seem like a straightforward sequence, but Boyd envisioned it as a dynamic, iterative process, rather than a rigid, step-by-step protocol. The loop is less a linear pathway and more a swirling ecosystem of feedback loops where information constantly flows, decisions are recalibrated, and actions are fine-tuned. This adaptability is what makes the framework so compelling, especially in competitive environments where unpredictability reigns supreme. Competitive situations, by their very nature, are not neutral landscapes of inquiry like science experiments or independent learning exercises. They are battlegrounds where every move you make is countered by an adversary equally intent on victory. This is what makes the OODA Loop so revolutionary. It is designed not just to process information, but to do so faster, more effectively, and more creatively than an opponent. The idea is to get inside your opponent's OODA Loop, a phrase that encapsulates Boyd's philosophy of disorientation and disruption. By moving through the loop more quickly and irregularly than your adversary, you can destabilize their decision-making process, creating confusion and reducing their ability to respond effectively. The heart of this framework lies in the orientation phase, which Boyd considered the linchpin of the entire process. Orientation is where raw observations and past experiences are synthesized into a coherent worldview, a mental model that drives all subsequent decisions and actions. This step is far from passive. It is a deeply active process influenced by factors like culture, heritage, prior knowledge, and even physical capabilities. Orientation is where perceptions of reality are constructed, making it the critical pivot point where information becomes strategy. But what happens when the stakes are high and the environment is unfamiliar? Here, the versatility of the OODA Loop comes into play. Depending on the circumstances, a person might rely more heavily on their reservoir of accumulated experiences and mental models, or pivot to fresh observations to navigate new terrain. For instance, a veteran in a familiar scenario might act almost instinctively, bypassing the decision step altogether and moving directly from orientation to action. In contrast, a rookie facing a novel situation might lean more on real-time observations to inform their choices. This adaptability ensures that the framework remains effective across a spectrum of challenges, from routine tasks to crises demanding immediate innovation. The elegance of the OODA Loop also lies in its inherent disruptability, a feature that Boyd considered not a flaw, but a strength. By introducing irregularity and unpredictability into their own loop, a competitor can throw their opponent off balance, creating opportunities for strategic advantage. This concept of controlled chaos can be likened to the art of feints in boxing or the decoys in military strategy. The key is to maintain enough coherence in your own process while sowing disarray in your opponent's. While Boyd's insights originated in the cockpit of fighter planes, their applications have extended far beyond military contexts. In the business world, the OODA Loop has been adopted to navigate the cutthroat dynamics of markets, where speed and adaptability often determine success. A company that can rapidly observe market trends, orient itself to new consumer needs, decide on a strategic pivot, and implement it effectively, can outmaneuver competitors bogged down in slower decision-making processes. This framework has also been employed in domains as diverse as sports, where pre-game scouting emulates the observation phase, and intelligence analysis, where synthesizing vast amounts of data echoes the orientation step. Despite its widespread influence, the OODA Loop has not been without controversy. Critics argue that its oversimplified portrayal as a neat cycle of 4 stages fails to capture the continuous and overlapping nature of real-world decision-making. They point out that observation, orientation, and action are often simultaneous processes rather than sequential ones. Others have challenged the notion of getting inside an opponent's OODA loop. They argue that decision cycles are not discrete entities to be infiltrated, but fluid processes too complex for such straightforward manipulation. Nevertheless, the OODA loop's conceptual power lies in its flexibility and intuitive grasp of human cognition under pressure. It reframes decision-making as a dynamic interplay of factors, rather than a static series of steps. This insight has proven particularly valuable in contexts like counter-terrorism and cybersecurity, where unpredictability and speed are paramount. At its best, the OODA Loop is not a prescriptive formula but a mental toolkit, adaptable to the user's unique challenges. It invites practitioners to think critically about their own decision-making processes and the biases that may cloud their judgment. By emphasizing orientation as the keystone of effective action, Boyd's framework underscores the importance of perspective and adaptability in the face of uncertainty. Ultimately, the OODA Loop represents a profound yet accessible lens through which to view competitive environments. It captures the essence of what it means to thrive under pressure. The ability to process information not just accurately, but creatively. To act not just decisively, but strategically. And to adapt not just to changing conditions, but to the moves of an active adversary. Whether in the cockpit of a fighter jet, the boardroom of a corporation, or the labyrinth of everyday life, this framework offers a timeless reminder that success belongs not to the strongest or the smartest, but to those who can think and act with clarity and agility in the heat of the moment. If you liked this video, you'll like this one. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.